Hi everyone. In the summer of 2009, my father and I took a wonderful trip through northern New Mexico and ended up at the Earthship communities just west-northwest of Taos, New Mexico. My dad and I were both really interested in seeing how they were made, and in the process we got to cross this amazing gorge at the Rio Grande River. Here's Dad overlooking the river. Here it is shown on the map. It is a little bit west-northwest of the city of Taos, New Mexico, in some pretty dry scrubland. When you see it from the road, almost all the structures are very low-lying. Many of them are one-story. Almost all are south-facing for the energy gain. We really were interested in the reuse of materials because Michael Reynolds' philosophy has long been to reuse available materials. These are very beautifully designed, almost always south-facing homes. It's a big deal here because it's very hot and dry, and south-facing means you get a lot of energy. So what you see here is part of the main south-facing wall of one of the under construction buildings. One of Michael Reynolds' signature moves was to reuse lots and lots of otherwise waste materials, in this case bottles which store a lot of air and thereby heat. When they're packed inside an adobe wall, that wall is very thick, stores a tremendous amount of heat, reuses materials. It's very efficient, very nice. Here's my dad with one of the builders. He's a great guy. He showed us all around, kind of no notice. Now look at the beautiful architectural use of glass on this entranceway, all kinds of curves. This is the intermediate airspace between the main living structure on the right and the exterior glass. This is used for gray water growing of plants in that trench you saw on the left. This is one of the interior spaces showing the heavy use of cans, also for air and material use reduction. So almost everything inside was framed with wood. The timbers are used above. This is almost all, I believe, locally grown timber. And even the interior walls use the cans construction. The exterior walls, of course, use the famous packed tires method that Michael Reynolds has really been a huge advocate of. Really, anything that would fill up a void space, reduce the use of materials was used. The guys also had a convenient way of getting rid of beer cans. Now, notice the screws driven up into the overhead timbers. This is a connection point so that the walls, as they're formed, have an attachment place to the concrete, wet concrete. This was used throughout and was a pretty important part of the load-bearing wall development. So you notice the timbers are in place already, and then the walls are built up underneath them. Piping system, they made extensive use of gray water reuse, and that was used for irrigation. Exterior walls were generally adobe covered with the stucco, cement soil mixture, I believe, and very innovative, creative, beautiful looking curved surfaces that were done in stucco by some of these guys that were real pros at it, obviously. And this is, New Mexico does a lot of this to protect the underlying adobe, but we were pretty impressed they were able to incorporate earth-based structures and the reused materials with some very good-looking curved structures and surfaces. Now the front of this, I thought they did a pretty nice looking job with the front of this. This direction faces south. You can see Route 64 in the background. They've got ventilation windows open here. So what you see here is sort of the main heat gathering surface. Now this is an important shot. I want to extend it for a minute because what you see here is south to the left and the main entrance to the house with the nice glasswork. The earth berm that stores heat off to the right, and generally behind these dwellings are the very large water storage tanks because this part of Taos only gets about 4 to 6 inches of rainfall a year. So everybody is storing every drop. These houses are essentially off-grid, and there's very little external input. Some of the places have some external input, but it's very much a self-sufficient condition. So you see here, some of the styles vary from the flat south-facing aspect, but they're all made with heavy reuse of materials. You notice this wall in particular, they left a lot of this can surface exposed. This may eventually get covered with stucco, but for now it's exposed. Some of the artistic aspects of the use of materials, you can see the sort of mountain range that's built into the colored cans and bottles in the background. So here's Dad. He's looking at the mountain range built of the difference between bottles and cans, external appearance. He's a huge fan of the artistic component of this, and it really is a chance to express yourself. Now look at the close-up here, the packed earth and straw mixture with the bottle ends. It's not quite adobe. It's really more of a soil mixture in this case. But it gives a chance for the artist, the person building it, to express themselves in a nice way sometimes. And then, of course, this is looking out between two structures toward the back of another building. I believe this might be the visitor center from this aspect. Okay, here's Dad in front of the entrance to their visitor center where they've used the stucco-covered, earth-formed materials, but kept the glass and bottles obvious so you can see, the shapes and colors of the glass, which adds a really interesting effect in terms of creative expression. Yeah, I wanted to show this particular close-up because they've actually curved the stucco around boulders in the earth. It really is very interesting how the different materials are used. So here is local slab basalt used as part of the walkway. Now, as we enter the visitor center, we see one of the most important features of Earthship design. So what you see are plants growing in a trough fed by gray water, and this allows a lot of food to be grown in the dwelling itself, despite the very cold temperatures in the winter in this part of northern New Mexico. So the intensive reuse of water and having each home be as self-sufficient as possible is really one of the critical design intents, and it comes back to some of the mechanical apparatus we'll see in a moment. So almost all the houses are designed with the gray water reuse systems on the south-facing side between the interior glass wall and the exterior glass wall, so it's cooler or hotter than the main structure. And what we see here is some of the automation that's used. There is a fair amount of automation in the Earthship design that's built into it. They've got this is the electrical system, the inverter system, battery storage. Some of the solar panels production is stored in batteries. I was pretty impressed. They've got a lot of DC apparatus going. It really cuts on the energy losses going in and out of inverter systems, which I'm a big fan of avoiding that inverter loss. So this is the water purification system. It's very nice. Operates off, I believe this is mostly DC current here. I'm not positive with DC. Oh, here's Dad inspecting the gray water grown plantings in the main south-facing window. Notice they've got shading because it gets hot, very hot in south-facing areas, and my dad was pretty thrilled about this. Notice here they've used linseed oil to treat this mud wall. New Mexico is famous for the broad range of uses of adobe mud walls, earthen surfaces, and this is one of the interesting uses where they've actually improved the heat capture. So we really enjoyed our visit to the Earthship community. They were really, really nice folks, and they showed us around immediately. They enjoyed showing us around, and the visitor center really keeps people from sort of poking around the community, which represents really people's homes. And so this is a nice way of helping people to understand what this is about. It's fabulous technology, neat location, and definitely worth a visit. So head on out if you're ever in New Mexico, northern New Mexico, skiing, visiting. Go out and see it. It's a great place. Take care, and thanks a lot.